join us. And yeah, so it's always a great pleasure, and thank you again and welcome to our February webinar, Getting Our Children Started with Reading. It's always a great pleasure to host one of these webinars, opportunity to connect with and have conversations with our parents, and to hear from yourselves and to share what we're learning as well. By way of introduction, my name is Lara Okpor. First of all, a mom of 2 children. And as I said, they are the ones that actually started my journey into education. My kids learned how to read almost 4 for my first, and then my daughter was quicker than my son by 3+. She was reading. I've worked in different environment, learning and development roles, retail management, compliance, banking, and education for the last 20 years, and the last 10 as an educator. So actually it's going to be 10 years this year, but I started one of our settings in Dartford. Had the opportunity to build 4 educational platforms in the last 10 years. I need to update this. And we've taught over 500 children to read from scratch. So children that came to us not reading, barely holding a pencil, able to teach them how to read before reception. And those that were able to read, move them up 2 to 3 reading levels, depending on their classroom, their class at school, and their reading levels at school within 6 to 12 weeks. Been given the opportunity to work alongside several parents to boost their children's reading, maths, English. Now we incorporate science for our secondary school offerings, and we successfully place children at fantastic independent schools and grammar schools. I believe that every child can make progress. They just need the right environment, the right learning support, and the sky is their limit. So one of the goals is also to empower parents so that at every point in time, you know where your child is and you are able to support your child's reading. So a bit of housekeeping. If you have any question, you can pop it in the chat so you don't forget. As I said, it's a quite small, intimate group today. So we have the opportunity to ask questions if you have any question about your particular child, or if your child is in the process or between 2 and 3 and you want to know what can I do depending the time they start school, or if your child is actually above 5 years old and struggling to read. So we've got the opportunity to just answer your questions. So you can pop in the chat, but my presentation today will not be long so that we have the opportunity to answer your questions. So I will get right into it. So what is reading? So reading is the skill or the activity of getting information from written words. Source is Cambridge Dictionary. And is also making meaning from print. It requires that we identify the words in print, a process that I called recognition. So before, we take it for granted now because we're adults. Either we learn through a sight or, cramming. How many words can you cram anyway? But it's a multifaceted process involving what recognition, comprehension, fluency, and motivation. So obviously the beginning part is understanding, being able to recognize words before the comprehension and the understanding can come. So it's making meaning from print. We have to identify the words in print, which is the word recognition, construct an understanding from them, a process called comprehension, coordinate identifying words and making meaning so that reading is automatic and accurate, an achievement called fluency. For us as adults, it's easy, but for younger children, you can imagine every part of their brain trying to work and comprehend and understand, decode. There's a lot going on there. When I checked the meaning of identifying, it says recognizing, finding, categorizing, detecting, pinpointing, labeling. So sometimes we call our children, the ones that come to the center, reading detective, because there's a lot that goes on, especially after they've learned the skill of reading 3 to 4 letter words and then mastering fluency. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of phonemes, combination of sounds that they have to get familiar with. So sound to symbol to meaning. So when they see a letter, They recognize it as a symbol of a sound, and then they put it together to form a word, which is meaning. So today we're just going to concentrate on the process to support a child to learn to identify words in print, which is recognition, which will eventually lead to meaning. So you might ask, why learn to read? I mean, that's the only way we interact with the world around us. That's the way we interact with print. We discover the world around us, because apart from if a child cannot see, like physically, there's a different world they experience it. But then if you can see, but you can't put meaning to the words, the graphemes, the main things you see around you, it just really reduces your interaction with the world. Reading supports learning of other subjects, and that's one thing I say for our younger ones between the ages of 2 and 5. Focus should be on reading because it supports learning of other subjects if you want independent children, because by then they're able to decode the words, read the instruction, and then make meaning of what the question is about. Reading also helps the children build confidence and a sense of well-being. Everywhere around us, there are posters, there are billboards, there are books, there's magazines, there's products, labels, restaurant menus, even though they're colored and everything, that can help the children, the graphics can help the children make meaning of what it is. But as they grow older, it's important that our children learn to read, decode words, because it helps them interact better with their world. So I'm just going to look at one thing of the reading. So reading is the spring through which the window of life opens up, and we've launched into a flowing universe of learning and discovery. So it's the bedrock of learning. So it's through reading that we learn to read, learning to read, and learning to understand and then make meaning of it. So as we move on, so you can understand that it is a very important tool. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. How did I get into this? So my son was around, I think I remember he was just going to be 3. And I was applying there was a fantastic top school on our street, actually. Then we lived in Ruislip. And I was thinking, okay, if it's going to start school in September, he just turned 3, it's February born. What can I do to get him ready for nursery? So remember, this is nursery, it's just 3. And I just thought, of course, it's my first. Usually our first is our guinea pigs. And I just asked a friend who had an older child, like, okay, you know what do you do with a 3-year-old? And she was like, oh, you need to learn to read. But for me, I started with the desire. I had that desire. I mean, I wanted my child to learn to read or learn a bit of academics, just so that by the time they get to school, they're not lost. He used to go to nursery. We did things at home. We played, we did puzzles, but I just wanted a bit of guidance to know, okay, what do I do? So it all started with me with desire. I wanted a bit more for my son. I wanted him to have a bit more exposure. And then I thought about, okay, if he's going to go into an independent school, he will have to do an assessment. So depending on what we decide, I just wanted to give him the best. And then I was curious. I had, my heart as a parent, a first child, maybe I was over G, as some people would say, eager, but I'm glad I was, because as the curiosity kills the cat. But because I had the desire, I was curious, I then asked questions with my friends, Google, and thank God for good friends that were able to say, okay, you know what, you start with reading. And once they said to me, you start with reading, then I went ahead to look for a place where I could help him do that. Because I was into learning and development. I thought I was in HR. I thought I did skills, work skills, like there's a skill we need to learn. I do that. I wasn't sure about how to teach a child to read, things we take for granted. So I acted upon it and I got him a setting, and that's why Ant Learning started, because I was like, wow, how could they help my child in 3 weeks? So what literally happened, he went for a taster session, and he came home in the bathroom, washing his hands. He was pointing to letter C and said, and he was trying to blend carex. It was a carex. And I was thinking, no way, it's not going to happen. It's not possible. And everywhere we went, on the streets, by the bus, when he sees the bus, he will be pointing and attempting. he didn't know what he was doing. But for me, I was like, wow, what did they do to build curiosity in him that he wanted to learn how to read every printed word he saw? And for me, Mike, the question I would ask is, what do you really want for your child? Some people say it's too early. Why bother? School system is getting busier. We have a lot more children in schools, 30 children in a class. The best teacher, no matter how passionate it is, it's just humanly impossible to support 30 children at that reception level. Even with a teaching assistant, it can still be a struggle. And we have other children that also need special needs, and which we were hoping the government will support with more help at schools, but we know that they are cutting back. So what I just want to encourage us is, if there's something in your heart and you want to fix or solve for your child, it will be good to take action about it. So yeah, our next slide, please. So learning to hear. So for me, I always start with learning to hear. So remember, at a particular age, the GP sends you a letter to say, we want to do a hearing test for your child. Please, if your child is at that age, don't skip that session, because it's very important that the children can hear themselves when they read, because it helps to decode sound. It's what is reflected back to their hearing, they are able to bring out to us. So hearing has everything to do with learning to read. If a child has difficulty hearing the individual sounds, which are the phonemes of words or speech, he or she may experience some challenges in learning to read effectively. You might say, oh, how is that connected? It is connected. Hearing is key to reading. So sometimes at the center, when we're teaching children to read, if a child is not loud enough to hear themselves say the sound, when it comes to blending, it becomes challenging for them to be able to blend sounds together, because they're not loud enough, they can't hear the sound, and blending can be challenged. So I encourage children to shout in my class whenever they're trying to read, or whenever we're having a reading session, because I want them to hear what they're saying. By then, when they hear the sounds, they're able to put the sounds together. And by the time they're saying, for example, up, the word is already formed, they can hear themselves. So it's just to understand that it's very important to make sure that our children can hear us, especially when we speak to them. Are they following your eyes? Are they listening? And are they being able to respond to what you're saying? Thank you. So I'm just going to share with us practical tips to kickstart our child's reading. And before I go into these 4 steps, tips in detail. So for example, 1, communicate with your child. I'm thinking my children are young. What can I do? We need to talk to them. Phonemic awareness, and we'll go through the sounds for the young child to know the individual sounds and be aware that this is the sound letter A makes. We don't teach letters, we teach the sound the letters make. My daughter did not know the letters of the alphabet until like 6, because she didn't need to. If she was spelling, our spelling was accurate. She used our sounds to spell. She didn't need to learn the letters because it's just redundant. There's really nothing they can use the letters to do. Synthetic phonics, I'll go into that in more details, and then motor skills and handwriting. So, but before I go into that, let's just hear from one of our parents that did our reading program, and I'll carry on from there. Yeah.
So I considered extra tuition for this year because lockdown had happened and we were meant to be doing learning from home. It was really difficult. I've never liked teaching children anyway, but it was really tough. And you agree with me that a lot of parents thought they needed support for our children. I asked around, looked around, and the other ones that were around, I wasn't really keen on them. So I spoke to a friend whose children were there, and she had really good testimony. So I thought, why not? Let me try it. I've always wanted extra help for him anyway. He's good, but I thought, I don't know what materials to use, what exactly to teach him. And I wanted him to, although he was in reception, I wanted him to enjoy school in that. When a child goes to school and they understand what is being taught, they will enjoy the learning. So that is what I wanted for him. I started from home, but it wasn't that much. So when he started, he became so fluent at reading, blending, phonics, sounding out. You just see a word and we just start reading. You know, he just got so interested in reading. Everything he saw, he would just start, blending it. And it made learning fun. You know, when they enjoy doing it, it's fun. You look forward to doing it all the time. And apart from that, like I went to parent consultation one time where parents were allowed to come to the classroom with all the other kids there, and I was so proud of my son and proud of myself as well for taking that decision. So he read so well, he was answering a lot of questions, and I realized that AMP learning sort of teaches them a term ahead. And even throughout the term, they still assist them with sort of whatever learning is being done in school. So even before he goes to school, he knows what's going to be taught. So it makes life easier for him. He's not bored. He's participating and thinking, oh, I know that. It's like helping him to recollect and all of that. He's also won a few awards from school, which I sent to, I think, the CEO, I think. Yeah, he got an overall, a card apparently that only, the whole term, only 3 children have got. He got one. You can imagine my joy when I came back, home to that postcard. And then he got an award from the head teacher as well. And I believe it's because of the support he's getting from Learning, because although it's a classroom based, it's still individually tailored. They get time for each child, which I find really useful because he comes back and he gives me feedback. He tells me, oh, okay, I was struggling with this one. So the teacher gave me extra work to practice. At the end of, I love this most, at the end of every session, I don't get to drop him or do I teach him. So I give feedback to Daddy and Daddy gives feedback to the teacher. So the teacher tells us, okay, he needs support here. So I've given him extra work. So we're concentrating more here. So although it's a group thing, they still get, to get individual learning, which is very good.
Thank you. Okay, so great. I just wanted you to hear from head now because our son came to us, I think around, COVID time is 7 or 8 now. So as I said, as we move on, how do we help and tips to help your child get started with reading? So I would say, first of all, we need to speak to our children. So the reason I started with this is that you are the first teacher your child will learn from. And this is through conversation, this is through interaction, this is through play. Are we able to make okay, that's fine. So through play and daily life interactions, you have every opportunity to make every interaction with your child like a learning. So I don't mean us being too serious, but it could be when you're playing a puzzle, you can just have, just, oh, this is what picture is this? And talk a little bit about that, because that's how you encourage your child to be curious. You want a curious child, because it's very important that your child is interacting and asking questions about what, but it all starts with how we work with them. Falak, is it possible to stop the slide going in and out? It's a bit distracting. Thank you. You want to ignite curiosity, response, reaction with your child and expose your child to different stimulating environments. You can go to the park, sometimes we go to the museum, soft play areas. This is tailored to children 5 or less. Play dates, books, ask for their opinion. Sometimes when I talk to my kids, people around wonder, you're talking to them as if they're adults. I say, well, you're trying to ignite your child to ask questions. You want them to be able to answer and speak to an adult. We don't want children that when an adult is speaking to them, they're cowering. No, we don't want that. But it all starts with how we treat our kids at home. So have fun, communicate with your child, talk as much as possible. When you see a child that their parent is talking to them, their intelligence level is higher, and you can see they respond better, and they're very curious and want to have conversations as well. Of course, our children's personalities are different, but this is always a good way to start. Secondly, I would say introduce phonemic awareness. And what I mean by phonemic awareness, as I said before, please do not teach them letters. So phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and work with phonemes. And phonemes are the smallest units of sounds that work together to make words. So in normal layman English, just phonemic awareness is just your child knowing the phonemes, which is the sounds the letter make. And until they know the sounds the letter make, it becomes impossible to put them together to be able to read. Flashcards is a fantastic tool. Picture cue cards. So for example, it could be a picture of a dog. You can just say, oh, what is this, a dog? And behind the picture, you can have the word dog, og. You say, okay. And then as your child gets familiar with the sounds using picture cues, then using, with sound cards, and then when you start introducing picture cues, they are now making meaning, the picture of the animal, and the letters that put the sounds, the name of the animal together. So they're able to identify that, okay, this is how to spell cat. I'm just saying spell, but this is cat, and this is a picture of a cat. So therefore, they're able to link the word to a meaning. So it's always very important that our children are able to identify the sounds and then able to put the sounds together. So in one of our programs at the center, we introduce learning the sounds. It's a program we do for 6 weeks. If your child does not know the sounds of the alphabet, we teach them within 6 weeks to know all the 26 sounds and the different ways it comes. So it could be double consonant sounds. And once they're able to know that, then we move on to the next 6 weeks, which is then putting the sounds together. So the more practice and exposure your child receive, repetition is very important. You know, even if you start this at 2, our children are like sponges. They are able to identify things that we put in front of them. A child can, if you give them a remote, can change the channel. Why can't they know the sounds of an alphabet? It is very possible. It's what we expose them to and what they see repeatedly that they get familiar with. So it's important that our children are taught to actively learn the sound through play, through different play items that we have around. So you might say, how do I introduce phonemic awareness to my child? When you're reading with your child, it could be at night, point to the text. You know, this helps your child develop print awareness, and there's focus and more emphasis on the word you're reading. So of course, this early age, you want big print text, picture books, so that as you see the dog, the word dog, you can put your finger to the picture of the dog and then trace the word and the sounds that make up the word. It also helps your child pay more attention to the words on the book as you read, and they're focusing more on the book you're reading. Pick random words in the text. So pick random words in the text, segment it. Segment it makes you break it down. So it could be dog, dog, stretch it out smoothly, and blend it together. This helps your child identify sounds in words and the position of these sounds in words. So how we put together these sounds, we have words which have then meaning. And then pick random words in your speech during the day. You might be in the kitchen making food and you just say, oh, this is the red spoon, you know, red, you know, throughout the day and your conversation, randomly pick words to segment and blend. Don't teach your child letter names of the alphabet until they're able to know the sounds of the alphabet. So initially when we have some children, it's in the first 6 to 8 weeks, if they've learned the letters, it is challenging to unlearn it because it took them a long while to learn the letters. Now we're telling them, what sound is this? They tell me letter L. Say, yes, it's letter L, but what sound does letter L mean? So, or say, so it's very important that foundation is right. If you have younger children, please don't teach them the letters. We need them to know the sound. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, please. So synthetic phonics, so this is when we teach children the simple concept that the symbols of the alphabet they see represent sound, which is also linked to phonemic awareness, and teaching them the ability to connect these sounds together to form the word we hear. In essence, you're teaching your child to convert symbols, letter A or B, to sounds through effective decoding strategies without the first memorization of the entire word. What I encourage is our children are smart. Some children, if they don't want to learn the skill of knowing the sounds of the letter, they start cramming. How many words of the English language can they cram? So if you notice that if you put a word dog and your child is guessing, try to mix it up with a different word. Don't put a word dog. You can even put it God, God. All I'm just trying to say is that we don't want our children cramming words or memorizing words. We want them to be able to know the sound. It might be a longer process, but it's the process that they need to become fluent phonetic reader. It will help them later with their spelling. It will help them in everything they do. So we want to make sure that the foundation is right. Great. And then the next slide, please. So now fine motor skills and handwriting. No bias to boys. My son is a boy, but sometimes boys don't like to write. Children generally, it hurts them, especially at that young age. It's because they really do need fine motor skills to be able to hold a pen and to write. I encourage parents that for that age group, get a chunky pencil. You can buy it on Amazon. Pencil that are shaped according to their fingers. It doesn't hurt as much as those thin straight line pens. So all the pencils, scribbling, drawing can help our children build motor skills and stronger motor skills so that when we give them a pencil, and then they're learning to write the sounds of the alphabet, it's easier. We don't want them to do it for 30 minutes a day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, little at a time, drawing, tracing, crossing circles. It's very important. Allowing them to feed themselves. I know it might take longer when they feed themselves, they make more mess, but this is a life skill we want our children to have. All these activities have been put together for a particular reason. We need the children's fingers to work, and we need them, and that's through work and through play, playing with sand. All those very fine motor skills really help them build the bones of their fingers. Picking up chariots from the table, you can pour it on the table into a bowl and vice versa. Rice razors with tweezers, you can get them tweezers that we use to pop things up our eyebrows and just help them, obviously with supervision. Cutting through straight and curved lines with scissors, Lego building blocks, puzzle, Play-Doh, sculpturing, all these play activities, even though you might think they're playing, they're developing social skills, they're also helping their motor skills. Finger brush painting, water play, watercoloring game with eyedropper, like what we ladies use for our serum. If it's finished, pour water in one, get them to pinch it and then take water out. What you're trying to do is making sure that the bones and what they need for fine writing is being developed. Gardening and planting also helps develop gross motor skills, because those are the things that help with their hands. So those are the things I find very helpful. I'm trying to help my children before reception at that early age, because sometimes in school, no matter how much your child can read, if their handwriting is bad, they keep them at a particular reading level. So we have to understand that at the center as well, we make sure that we teach the sound, we teach the children to read, we also incorporate writing. So we want to make sure that we balance the approach. I know I want our children to read, but start early as much as possible to make sure that your child is also holding a pencil. So I mean, the reading program that we offer helps make sure that we take the children through all this process that I've gone through with you as a step-by-step instructional teaching to make sure a child knows the sound, their motor skills are developed, there's phonemic awareness, there's use of synthetic phonics, to make sure that they are then, we call them our reading detective. We want to build confident children. We want their literacy to be solid, because eventually, as they even get to secondary school, that literacy, that early reading, that reading skill that they develop helps them throughout life. Becomes in secondary school, they have to write essays. At primary school, they have to write good writing stories. it all boils down to your child being able to read the instruction, being able to read and decode. And that for me is the bedrock of reading. So we have different reading programs that are available for our children. We have the short reading program. So we have a Learn the Sound, which is 6 weeks, the Learn to Blend, which is another 6 weeks. And we have the beginner reading program suitable for children between age 3.5 and 4.5, depending on where they are. We place our children based on ability. Sometimes we have a 4-year-old that is able to read. We make sure that we assess and put them in the right reading group that would help them become fluent readers. And then towards as they get to year 1, year 2, we have children that struggle with reading long and extended words. And we covered this multisyllable reading program, which is around 4 weeks in our advanced reading program, where they read long extended comprehension, words with 4 syllables, words with special ending. Reading early helps tremendously and benefit for our children's cognitive development and intellectual advancement. Fola, do we have the other testimonial we can get, and then we can start our questions?
My daughter, everybody will be biased. So I would say she is phenomenal. I'm being so impressed. She started off, as I mentioned before, I was trying to think how we can both learn and teach each other to read. I do read, but when you're teaching a child to read, you understand that there are step process. And as someone that's never home educated before, I really wanted to understand how we can go through the process of phonics. Phonics is not just one base or one stage. It has different stages. So she started off with identifying her sounds, and we tried that at home. And Ant learning was really basic. It allows us to understand how to identify sounds. She did really well. And then we moved on to diagrams. And so she had to kind of get double sounds and start to identify how to pronounce both the sounds and identify the letters, which she did really well. And it came to the point then she was blending and sounding together. So as she was doing that, she was then able to understand herself how to blend words together. And then what we would do is that we would try and start using books to read and practice the blending of sounds. And she was picking up really quickly. I would say in about 6 weeks, my child was blending. And then she's now reading. She picks up a book, and her actual last, which is good for Ant, they do assessments. Her assessment identified her to be in the realm of 6 to 10-year-olds. So she's reading, she's just turned 5, so she was 4. And she's reading in the bracket of 6 to 10-year-olds. So my child can read her books herself. I'll give her something to pick up, and she would read long words and try and pronounce it with some support. And I would say it goes down to the coded book, which we have, which you practice blending. We have sound matching cards, which you have to keep practicing. So I had the responsibility to try and do that every day with her, and ensure that she kind of gets practicing. So in that also contributed to maths. So she really needed to start reading to really understand some of the instructions. And once she started to pick up things, maths became a lot easier. So now she's understanding the different shapes. She's understanding comprehension, complex maths questions. And then we have the homework, which we do online, which is provided by Ant as well. And then we have the Wednesday online group, which she jumps onto. And she is in the advanced stage. So as we speak in summer school, she's in 6+ class, and I am super, super impressed by her. Again, I don't say every parent is biased, but my child is phenomenal. So yeah, thank you.
Woo! Adapted Mind Math! Come explore the site with me. I'm
okay. That was Kelechi. Sarah Grace is still with us. She's completely homeschooled. Never been to a mainstream or independent school. So mom and her have done phenomenally well. She's currently in our year 3 group, and our journey has been phenomenal. And yeah, so yes, Oinda, I know you have a 1-year-old and 3 years, 3 months. So as I said, keep talking to the children, show them sounds, the alphabet, that's a sound card. start giving your 3.5-year-old, even the younger one, a pencil, but obviously under supervision, just to make sure they don't write on your walls. But let them scribble, let them play with sand. Sometimes I know they will eat this sand, but you just have to be there. But those are the things you can help with. Tunda, I know you said you live outside London. Yes, the online session is the same session we do at the center. The only difference is you have a live teacher online and we use different tools, but we do the same program. At the center, we do this over 2 hours, but we follow the same curriculum and the same program. And then we also have a Wednesday session because we identify that some of our parents are busy. And we just, in order to support them, we have a half-an-hour session that children, both at the center and online, can join in, and the teacher can walk through like a reminder of what they were taught in class on Saturday, just to ease off a bit of pressure from our parents. Yes, so to answer that question, yes.
Sorry, just to interject a bit.
Yes,
Okay. How then do you keep them engaged? Because if we are doing, well, my son is currently doing Kumon, as you're aware, and at times keeping him engaged in doing the work can be quite a challenge. So online, how then do I keep him engaged, or how then do you also keep him engaged to actually do the work? Because that can be a challenge.
In class during the session, right?
Yes, in class during the session. And also I have a 5-year-old, so it's a pretty busy household currently. So I might not maybe have I myself might not be as equally engaged because I'm also attending to my 5-year-old daughter. Not 5-year-old, but 5-week daughter as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's a good question. When I started my son, I had a baby, funny enough. She was similar 6 weeks when he was 3.5. So we started the program September 2010, thinking about it now, and she was just 6. She was born in summer, July. So which was the opportunity I had because I was home. So that really gave me a lot of time. So I'm not sure if you're at home or if definitely you're busier, but I didn't have to think about going to work, looking after baby, and also looking after him. So at least I just knew that I focused on those two at home. So to answer your first question, how do we keep them engaged? The class session is split into different segments. So the first half an hour, we do a word building where we encourage your child to have a plain sheet of paper, their pen, and they have to do what the teacher is doing. As the teacher is teaching, there's a time when they have to also do what the teacher is doing and then raise it up to the teacher and then do it. So it's a kind of interactive session where if your child is not engaging, we always want an adult, first of all, for that age group to sit in. You can mute, or because the first few weeks is a new environment, they're not used to it, especially if they're not used to online session. We ask for an adult to be next to them because he can just stand up and walk away, just to be frank with you. But if there's an adult in the first couple of weeks, and once they get engaged and get used to the teacher, they can then have a relationship and follow the instruction of the teacher. But the way we teach, first half an hour is to do the word building where there is interaction, after which there's a time for them to write in their booklet, which we send to you. So the teacher will have it on the whiteboard and instruct your child to do the same in their booklet, follow, and once they've done, show. And then they have a quick break and we have a game session where it's interactive on the board. So, and a good opportunity is if you have, you want to attend a tester session, so you can see how it's done and see if it's suitable for your child. So that's what we do. For the Wednesday session, it's just for half an hour. And it's just to reiterate what they learned on the Saturday and play a game. Games and resources that we know will remind them the sounds, will remind them the way to blend, and because those are the things we know that helps children blend. So for example, you said, how do you blend the word hot? So for example, AUGH, the sound is O. But for a child in reception, depending on if they're already teaching this complex sounds, it's not a sound that they learn in the first term. or even usually the second time. So if they're trying to teach your child, for example, we teach this in the intermediate group, which could be suitable for an advanced reception or a year 1 child. So it's 3 sounds. How many sounds in the word court? So we'd say, for example, I'm just going to mimic it. I'm not teaching us to suck eggs, but I just want to show you how we teach our children. So for example, how many sounds in the word court? Raise your super fist up. Or t. How many sounds? 3 sounds. We tell them to write 3 lines on their board. Each line represents a sound. And then we teach them the first sound you can hear in the word court is, where should it be? Then they put it on the first line. And then the second sound is or. Which one is the or sound? They point it because we would have gone through a bit of process with them. And then once we've decoded and placed the 3 sounds on the line, we read it together from left to right. Or t. And then we teach them AUGH. I'm using that for you as a parent. Is 1 sound. When they see this sound word and these letters together, they don't break them up. They're friends. They have to keep them as 1 sound. So that's how we teach the children, and we use different ways to teach them. Children are like sponges. They do understand how, once they've given their instruction, and then we show you parents with a structure Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday, how to also repeat whatever we're doing. We record different videos for you to follow, to know how to do the blending, to know how to play the games. And also because it's all about repetition for these younger children. The more there's repetition, the more they remember the sounds. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. No, yes, you did. Thank you very much. I'm still thinking, but I might as well.
Yeah.
I'm not strongly thinking of joining you because that's a word that was brought into one of his homeworks from Kumon, and I didn't know how to teach him the sound. So hence me now thinking, is he at the right level, or if they just mixed it up, that sort
Yes.
of thing?
Usually I don't talk about other provisions, but it depends. We teach children how to read. We don't teach them to. So if a child will bring that kind of word home, I would inform the parent the logic behind it. I would teach them how to go about it, because that word looks like a complex sounds for me.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so we want to make sure that, and that's why we do a step-by-step to make sure that the child learns 4-letter words. Then we move on to more complicated sounds that they will see in books that are relevant to their age group as well. Because yeah, so there's a way we teach it. So I mean, we have a free testing session just so that you experience it and see what it is that we learn, the child will learn. You have an email from that I need to, okay, my son was born in September. It starts school in September 2026. Can it start the reading? Yes, so Onida, yes, it starts school 2026. That time he will be 5. So he has an advantage of age by the time he starts reception. You can start depending on what you're doing with him now. So continue to do the basics, keep showing the sounds. We take children from 3.5, but also you will know when your child is ready. And the reason we say that is, if your child is going to nursery, they're exposed to different form of learning as well. We want to make sure that when they are home with you, let there be some things in the house that they like. Teach them colors. Teach them when you see a red star, oh, what color is this? You know, things like that. As I said, communicate and interact with your child. So your child could start in September, because by that time they are 4, or they could start in April, but it depends on how ready they are as well. And when I mean ready, we prepare them. So parents said, oh, what do you mean? Does a child have to be ready to join your center? No, we make them ready for school. That's what we do. We get your child ready for school. But what we say is, 1, try to introduce them to be able to stay around other children as well. So they're able to sit in a formal setting, because that prepares them also for school. So yeah, they can join in September. At that time, they are 4, or summer school on what's ready for you, or next year, January, depending on but your child has the advantage of age, because it will be in the same class as a child that just turned 4 in August, and he is already 5. So that means that your child has the ability, because 3 months really makes a difference in children's lives, especially the younger ones. So he has a big advantage of age. So you can just throw a lot of things at him at the moment. Any other question? And let me just have...
Thank you so much for that feedback. To be honest, I think he's ready. We're already doing all the colors, and I'm just looking for a bit more a more challenging program for him. So he already knows all the colors. So I'm more than happy for him to start. I'm actually excited. He's at a nursery, and they always say, David knows all the colors. So I like you said, children are like sponges. So I want him to improve what he already knows. So which I don't think I have the resources to do that. So I'm actually very excited about the program. So the taster session in April, how long is it?
It's a 90-minute session online. The first 5 minutes. So they can do it. And last week, April, we could do it first. I think it's the 22nd after the Easter break. Yes, that's when we resume back. But we also have taster sessions this Saturday next week as well, before the half term, and then we come back on the 1st of March for the next 6 weeks. So if your child needs support with blending, we have Learn to Blend, and if they need support to learn longer words, we have the Learn to Read Multisyllable Words, which is a 4-week program that we run, usually suitable for children age 5 onwards for the multisyllable, and the Learn to Blend from, as I said, based on ability. If your child knows the sound, because we have to make sure they know their sound before they attend our Learn to Blend session. So, but that's an opportunity. We start on the 1st of March to the 5th of April. Only that this will not be suitable for your son. It will be the initial one starting back in April. And for you, Tatinda, if you want us to have an assessment for your son, we are able to do that. And we have to give you next steps or recommendation based on what you should focus on going forward for him. So at least this term and next term at school is productive, and you also know what to do with him and to support him in his learning.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah.
You're welcome. And you can book that through our website, antlearning.co.uk /get started. You can put an assessment there. We can do that online for him, or give us a ring as well.
Okay.
If there is any, is there a particular way of teaching double sounds? I think I've answered that question.
Oh, hi. Hello. I'm so sorry. I have a 4-year-old who's off with fever, so we miss most of the session, which I'm really, really gutted about.
We recorded it, so we can send you the...
Please, thank
If you
you.
have any question for him, I'm happy to answer any question if you have any now.
Yeah, so my child is coming for the taster session this coming weekend, but I wanted to understand, could we stay to kind of see how that works, or are you able to just tell me what the structure of the class will be on a typical Saturday? So kind of what the format looks like. So maybe, first 20 minutes we do this kind of exercise, and then 10 minutes we do this afterwards. What does that class usually look like on a Saturday?
So is it in reception yet?
She's sorry, she's in preschool, she's in nursery. She starts reception in September.
Okay, that's great. That's a good question. So the structure at the center, I'll just say it's similar to online, just shorter in length online. So when your child comes in, we have a 40 minutes word building session. So every child is given a whiteboard pen as well as a whiteboard, and they sit in front of the teacher. So the class is set up as a U section so that we can see every child. It's still a small group. And so the teacher will start the word. So for example, if we're learning how to read and write the word cat, we start with cat, we show them a picture of a cat, we talk a little bit about it, and then we start talking about the sounds that make up the word cat. And we teach them the beginning sound, the middle sound, and the last sound. So the aim of that 40 minutes is to learn 8 different sounds in one session, and that's repeated the following week. So we do that for like 40 minutes. So as each word and each sound is done, when we do one word, we ask your child to write what we've done and put it, if they're not able to write the teacher, there's somebody in class that help them form the alphabet or the sound in their own whiteboard, and also they repeat back to the teacher. So we understand that if a child doesn't know, we know what to do with that. So that's the first structure, the first 40 minutes. The children have a toilet break, 5-10 minutes after that, and a quick snack. And they come back to the session after 15 minutes. So like that's 40 minutes, another 15 minutes. Then we do a bit of writing. So for that young group that your child will be in, most of them first time holding a pen, a pencil, we teach them the correct way to hold a pencil so that they're not doing that, ready to stab someone. And we also teach parents so that you know that this is the right way for your child. If your child is left-handed, we need to understand so that we can support them in the right sitting position so that they're able to comfortably write. For those that are not able to write, we guide them with different tracing booklets so that they can practice at home, and that's provided to you. So they do like 15 minutes of writing. We don't stretch it too much because they can only do a little at a time. So following that, they then have games. We have different games. We have blending games. We have sound picture games. And sometimes we do bingo games. So we do different games so that we can teach the children. I think we've lost her, but we'll record it so she can listen to it. So we teach the children how to just to remember the first content of the 40 minutes in a lighter way, in a different way. So the games are very important. The children always want to win. There's a bit of competition. And then depending on the time of the day or the lesson, if it's like lesson 8, we introduce something called code book. And that is where there's a summary of all the sounds they've learned in a very good summary. We give them to the parents, take home, and you can use that in a car as you do your drive or time. So that's a structure. So there are different activities that the children do within that time at the center or online, just so that one, they're constantly moving, they're not bored, and we can keep the engagement. I think I lost her, but when we send her the recording, she can hear the summary. So if we do not have any other question, I just want to use this opportunity to remind us of our program again. We have the Learn to Blend, we have the multi-syllable, and we have the 12-week reading program that will help your child learn to read or move up a grade or 2 at school. And assessments or tester session this Saturday on the 8th and the 15th of February, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock online, or 11:30 at the center. And you can do that by booking a space at antlearning.co.uk/get started, or give us a ring, 0208 055 50505798. I think we lost you, but I did answer your question. So when you do get the recording, you can have a look. And
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, my phone. Yes. I
but
watched the recording. I got up to the 50-minute, the 40 minutes, then the break, then the games, but I'll listen afterwards. Thank you.
okay, great. But if you have any question, give us a ring, and I'm happy to help. And if you want us to assess your child, if they're already reading, that would also be a good place to start. Great. Thank you so much for joining. I always love talking about reading because it started my journey as an educator. And
Just before you go.
Yes.
So my son is actually reading, but then he still needs to follow the steps. So should I just, I know there's an email that I need to respond to from you.
Who is
so
that?
this is
Oyinda,
Oyinda.
right? Okay.
Yeah. He's reading, but I won't say like he's reading, but he needs to, like you said, it's a process. So we need to make sure that he knows all the phonics. I'll respond to the email and then
respond to us. If you want us to assess him and let him know he should start from or carry on, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And yeah, if you have any question, you can drop us an email as well, office@handlearning.co.uk.
No, sorry, just one other thing as well, please, before you
Okay.
drop off, Lara.
Yeah.
So my daughter, she knows how to use the pen, we write at home. In terms of reading, I wouldn't say she's there, but I believe there will be an assessment on the weekend to know which level or which group she
Okay.
will be in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay,
Which
thank
of
you.
the centers are you coming to?
To the Dartford one.
Dartford one. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, and thank you once again all for joining.
Thank you so very much, Lara. Take care. Bye.